Hi everybody, I'm David Paul. This is your Wednesday evening tropical update. Hurricane Fiona continues to crank, now Cat 4. And eyes on the Caribbean as the system has the potential to form there. First, we'll begin with Fiona, who is a very good-looking, well-formed hurricane here from outer space. You can see the eye very tightly wound, an indication of an intense hurricane. Very symmetrical here, especially the last frame or two. Central dense overcast is evenly spaced. Winds at 130 as of 7 o'clock on this Wednesday evening. That's the bottom end of a Category 4. They go all the way up to 156. Got to get to 157 and above to go Cat 5. We don't think that it is going to have sustained winds that strong swirling around the center. However, combine the forward speed with the intensity of the storm, and it may have some winds on the east side as it approaches Bermuda that approach 140, 150 miles an hour. Sunrise, you can see the storm forming. The eye opens up a little bit, and as the sun begins to go down, you can see much more of the texture of the cloud. Let's watch that one more time. Sun coming up, you can see the texture. Sun right overhead, kind of fades out. Then there's the texture. You can see the higher cloud tops bubbling up in the thunderstorms and the convection around the center. There we are, Cat 4 down at 934 millibars, moving north at 9, and it will accelerate to a forward speed of 20 to 25 miles an hour, maybe stronger than that. By the time it gets just west of St. George, Bermuda, this is going to be early on Friday morning, 1 a.m. Friday, with sustained winds of 130 miles an hour. But again, add the forward speed to the right-hand side where the winds are coming around counterclockwise, and we could have sustained winds on the east side of that center up to about 140 and 150. Remains to be seen just how strong the winds are going to be over Bermuda, but they may reach at least Category 1 strength, maybe more. The center right now is forecast to pass about 80 miles to the west of St. George, Bermuda. Then we go into Friday night and the wee hours of Saturday morning, and the now extratropical low, but still hurricane force low, moves toward Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, maybe making landfall just east of Halifax with winds sustained at 105 miles an hour. Again, this is going to be Friday night into the wee hours of Saturday morning, and then it continues to move inland. It does weaken, but it's still a 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm as it moves into the northern areas of northeast areas of Canada, well north of Quebec. Let's take a look at the wind field forecast for Fiona. Here's where we stand 8 o'clock on Wednesday with those Cat 4 winds just on the east side, the strong side of the center of Fiona. That's where the strongest winds are, that east side to motion, the right-hand side to motion. And so we look at the wind forecast going into Friday early morning. There's St. George, Bermuda. Devastating winds here, about 20, 30 miles east of the center of the storm. Again, St. George is about 70, 80 miles east of the center, at least based on this forecast. But you're close enough to be in that yellow, which is Cat 1. You'll probably get some gusts to Cat 2, sustained winds at Cat 2 just west of Bermuda. Again, this is early Friday morning. That's a snapshot taken of the forecast at 6 a.m. Friday morning, Bermuda. Then going into Saturday, 2 a.m. So it's Friday night, Saturday morning. All preparations need to be well done for Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. In particular, Nova Scotia, Halifax, you may have Category 1 to Category 2 force winds, as you'll be just on the west side of the center of the storm right there. And then Cape Breton, you may get Cat 2, Cat 3 gusts, especially just off the coast as everything moves inland, the counterclockwise rotation. The right-hand side not only has the winds, sustained winds around the center at 105 miles an hour, but again, it's racing north at about 25 to 30 miles an hour here. So you add that to the right-hand side and you get winds that could easily top Category 3 out near Cape Breton. The storm does wind down, but still Category 1 hurricane force winds north of Halifax, southwest of Corner Brook, as we head into Saturday afternoon. So Saturday morning before sunrise through Saturday afternoon, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland take a very hard hit from a very strong extratropical low, Fiona. Okay, so why is it being pulled north? Well, here's a trough. There's Fiona. That trough, and you can see a little bit of dipping down right here as well. That's already grabbed a hold of it. That's what's pulling it north in that northerly flow. So that's pulling it up to the north. And that will continue as the trough sharpens. Fiona's offshore. There's New York, there's Washington. You'll be getting a big cool down going into Friday as a front comes in with that trough northeast United States. There's Halifax, and there it is as this trough bends back on itself. That's called a negatively tilted trough. And again, look how the winds spread out up at 34,000 feet. That will enhance rainfall as well. This is also the type of setup that can cause waterspouts. You may see many waterspouts and small tornadoes with this making landfall across Nova Scotia and Newfoundland going into the wee hours. This is Saturday morning at 3:30 a.m. That's when the worst of it is going to hit. And then it weakens and moves inland and becomes a big rain and snow maker across northern and eastern Canada and eventually up into Greenland. That's Sunday. And then all eyes are going to be turning to the Caribbean, where this spot that we've been tracking for the past couple of days, the model suggests it is going to become a tropical storm or hurricane, perhaps right here. This is where the American model is suggesting it will be in the Western Caribbean on Monday at 11 a.m. The $64,000 question with this is, will this trough be deep enough to grab a hold of this system and pull it north? Or will the trough not be deep enough, and will this pass underneath it and head on a track that's further west than many of the models are suggesting? And right now, we just don't have enough information to answer that question. Here's where we stand with all the players out here in the tropical Atlantic. Fiona racing north. Gaston is up here, may graze the Azores as a tropical storm or tropical depression. It's not forecast to become a hurricane. This spot has a 50-50 chance for development coming off the Cape Verde, near the Cape Verde Islands in another day. Another spot here, a 30% rain chance model, formation chance. Model's not really picking up on that one too much. But again, this is the spot that has our attention with a 90% chance for development, says the Hurricane Center. The tropical wave is right here, north of Venezuela, or right on the Venezuelan coast right now. And the thing is, so this line of latitude, that's your 10-degree line of latitude. You've got to get systems north of 10 degrees north latitude in the northern hemisphere to get them to begin to rotate, to feel the Coriolis force and get them to become closed lows. And with this sitting here right at or just a hair above 10 degrees north latitude, there's just not much Coriolis force at work here right now. So whatever happens here over the next 24 hours is likely to be very, very slow to develop. Once again, you see the potential area of development here, says the Hurricane Center. There's another factor working against any type of rapid development over the next 24 hours, and that is this is being sheared at the upper levels, and then at the surface winds that you're looking at here, it's still an open wave. You can see the surface winds up, over, and around and down, but there's nothing closing off a low here. In addition to that, it's right on the coast of Venezuela. It's interacting with land. You're not going to get a system developing that's interacting with land like this tropical wave is, at least not right now on this Wednesday evening. This is going to have to get back out over open water to have that low grab more energy, be further north to feel more Coriolis effect, and grab the warm waters off of the Caribbean Sea to close off a low and potentially get some formation here. But what I'm saying is, as long as this moves to the west here over the next, at least 18 hours or so, I see a very, very low chance for development over the next day, but get out over the open waters, and the models are suggesting that we're going to see development here. You can also see how all the thunderstorms are being sheared off. So this is going nowhere fast, at least for the next 24 hours or so. All that being said, if it can get away from land and get it back out over the open water, sea surface temperatures here are running well above normal. These are sea surface temperature anomalies. The actual sea surface temperatures are very, very warm, upper 80s to near 90. So there's plenty of warm water in place. But just because you have warm water doesn't automatically mean you're going to get a big hurricane. The upper level winds, its proximity to land, two bigger factors than just the sea surface temperatures. Now, this is really interesting to me, and I think this will tell the tale as to whether or not the computer models are onto something or if they're being overly aggressive. Because the models, both the GFS and the Euro, suggest that this evening we would have a closed circulation. And we don't have that. So are the models overdoing it? Well, we're going to find out by tomorrow, because by tomorrow, Thursday, they both close off a low several isobars deep. So if we don't get a tropical depression by tomorrow evening, we'll know that the models perhaps are being a little overly aggressive with this. That being said, they both have been very consistent and continue to be consistent in closing off a low creating a strong tropical entity, tropical storm or hurricane, by the time we get into Tuesday afternoon and evening, putting it in the Northwest Caribbean Sea. And of course, here's the Yucatan Channel, the entrance into the Gulf of Mexico. The question is, will it take a more northerly track or a more southerly track? And of course, that will have huge ramifications as to who along the Gulf Coast ends up being threatened by our tropical storm. When we look at the spaghetti plots, this is the typical problem. We don't have a closed low for these to grab onto, so they're going to have a large degree of uncertainty, especially when you go out 5, 6, 7 days, which is what these go out to. And at this point, this is next Wednesday. You've got possibilities as far as south as Belize, Bay of Campeche, or not just Turks and Caicos, but we've got 1 or 2 that take it up here into the open Atlantic. So that's more than 1,000 miles of differential, of uncertainty going into early next week. And so that's why right now looking at any one particular computer model it's just not the way to look at this right now. We don't have enough information to know exactly where this is going to go. So over the weekend, we won't be threatened by this in the United States. But clearly the Caribbean Sea, all interests should be paying very close attention to this. Especially Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, Cancun, Cozumel. It's not out of the question that going into Monday, Tuesday of next week, Cancun, Cozumel, you may be threatened by a strong tropical storm or hurricane. Again, that would be in the Monday, Tuesday time frame of next week. So this is something we'll be watching very carefully. Western tip of Cuba as well, going into Monday, Tuesday. You may be impacted by a strong tropical storm or hurricane going into the Monday, Tuesday time frame. It's just way too early to tell exactly how this is going to play out, but clearly it's something we'll be watching very, very carefully. That's where we stand on this Wednesday evening. More questions than answers with that one. We'll keep you posted here. Check me out on social. Stay weather smart and stay safe as we move through this busy second half of the hurricane season.